Hey, hi, hello everyone, and welcome back to Overly Produced, where I, Lowlies, talk about all things reality TV that I have always found interesting, whether it is books by people on reality TV or moments in reality TV history that have just been playing in my head, or sometimes trying to ask certain questions and find the answers, like today's episode. And today's episode is, why is the Real Housewives of New York City reboot not good? I don't want to say it's like so bad, but it does kind of suck. So what's up with that? Before we get into it though, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe here on YouTube and on Spotify and the whole Apple thing. Yeah. And now my mic is just in the video. I've tried so hard to like keep it out of frame, and it just slowly creeped in, and you know what? Fine. It's here. Hopefully it makes audio even better. And also, I hope you don't hear any super weird noises because my cats are upstairs and I have hardwood floors, and one of them is young and he has the zoomies and he's being really obnoxious right now. Let's get into this. The Real Housewives of New York City underwent a major overhaul in 2023. The previous cast was very beloved. That is until season 13, when the world was in the midst of COVID lockdowns and America was becoming more hyper aware of racism and less tolerant of any kind of racism and microaggression. Allegations of blatant racism were made towards OG New York housewife Ramona Singer, which I do not find surprising. What I did find surprising though was that they apparently conducted an investigation, and they found no evidence of racism. Like at all? Like ever? Because the season was so toxic and they had this investigation, season 13 did not have a reunion, which is slowly becoming like a kiss of death for Bravo, because now we're seeing the same thing happen with the Real Housewives of New Jersey. They did not get a reunion for their last season, and the whole series has been put on pause. I think they were waiting to see how the second season of the RHONY reboot went before they decided if they wanted to do a complete overhaul or if they just wanted to keep some of the ladies and recast everyone else, and also to maybe kind of test the waters to see who they should even keep. Bravo claimed that they didn't have a reunion because there was too many scheduling conflicts for the ladies, which is such a BS. These women signed contracts to be there. They all know. So season 13 did prove to be the kiss of death for RHONY as we knew it. And if you don't know what RHONY is, it is Real Housewives of New York. That is how I will be referring to it from now on. After a long hiatus, it was announced that RHONY would be back and it would be rebooted with a younger, fresher cast. The previous cast would then be moved to some part of like RHONY Legacy show, and that eventually became season 4 of Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, which I'm still really pissed that we haven't gotten that season 5, which, you know what, maybe I'll do a video about that sometime. But I did enjoy the RHONY Legacy Girls Trip, especially seeing Dorinda actually watch Scary Island for the first time and then also be experiencing Kelly's weirdness in person. Now, the idea of a reboot was met with like mixed reviews. Some were totally fine with scrapping the cast because of people like Ramona, but some were also calling for like a mixed reboot of some like previous cast members like Sonia, Ebony K. Williams, Luann, or Leah McSweeney, which I'm not a huge fan of Leah McSweeney, so I wouldn't have been on board with that. But alas, it was a brand new cast, and it was announced at, I think it was actually like announced at BravoCon 2022, but then they were like unveiled at 2023. Now, the first cast member, really the only cast member I knew anything about, was Jenna Lyons. Now, she is a divorced single mother of one, a teenage boy who's like about to graduate high school in a couple years, and she has a secretive girlfriend. Jenna was once the president and creative director of J. Crew and was a favorite of flautist or former flautist Michelle Obama. Joining her on the cast is Sai De Silva, who is married with 2 kids and is an arguably successful influencer who started out with Mommy and Me content, but then she transitioned into more upscale luxury. She's actually shown receiving lots lots of different PR packages and a personalized Versace robe. So relatable. And then Erin Leashy, who is a New Yorker through and through. She's a real estate agent and designer who does business with her husband. She also works with Frederick, who is from, what's that show called? $1 Million Listings. At the beginning of the show, Erin and Abe had 3 kids, but now Erin is currently pregnant with their 4th, or she just gave birth. I'm not really sure. Then we have Jessel Tank, who is a British Indian woman who lives in New York with her husband, Pavat. She works in fashion PR, and I'm not really sure what her husband does, but he did kind of become like a food influencer, blogger type. And they also have 2 very young twins who were conceived via secretive IVF. Then we have Brynn Whitfield, who tries to give off carefree, positive, overly flirtatious vibes, but it's obvious that this is a mask that she has worn for a very long time. And according to Brynn, she has a very successful career in PR and 3 failed engagements. And then rounding out the season 14, or as I call it, season 1 cast, is model Uba Hassan, originally from Somalia, then moved to Kenya, and then moved to Canada, and now in the US. Uba is here kind of pushing her new hot sauce, Uba Hot. It was on Oprah's favorites list, or whatever Oprah calls her favorites list. I don't know. I feel like it has a specific name, but I don't know it. But like, other than like maybe 1 or 2 random meetings, we don't really ever hear her talk about it or anything. Now, there was actually another housewife who never appeared on the show. She was initially announced with the regular cast, but then she left. I think they probably filmed a little bit with her and she left very quickly. And her name was Lizzie Sevetski. I really hope I was saying her last name right. I'm sorry if I didn't. So the story that Lizzie told was after they announced the cast publicly and that she was included on that list, she received a barrage of anti-Semitic hate. It was overwhelming for her, and she left because that anti-Semitic hate. I do not doubt that she probably did get hate because people are fucking terrible. I don't doubt that every Jewish person, even if they're not famous, probably gets some kind of stupid bullshit on social media. However, though, Erin is also Jewish, and it doesn't really seem like she got this wave of hate that Lizzie got. Now, the actual rumor/story is that Lizzie actually left over an argument with Brynn. Brynn asked Lizzie to set her up with a nice Jewish doctor, as Lizzie, a Jewish woman, did also marry a nice Jewish doctor, and Lizzie is also kind of known, apparently, for being a little bit of a matchmaker for her friends. Lizzie tells Brynn that she cannot set her up with a Jewish doctor, as the Jewish faith is very important, and in the Jewish faith, it's extremely important for a Jewish man to find a Jewish wife, because Judaism is passed on through the mother's side, so that would be what determines that their child would be Jewish. It's very important to them to keep it within. And when Brynn asks to be set up with a Jewish doctor, Lizzie tries to explain this to her, but I don't know exactly how she said it. I did see somewhere that she said something about like it would muddy the waters, which I can understand that being offensive, but I also understand watching the show that Brynn doesn't try to understand things. Sometimes she just jumps to being offended and twisting things. Anyway, they end up having this argument on camera, and then later they spoke on the phone off camera in an attempt to like smooth it over. Racial slurs came up in the conversation, and Brynn in fact said the N-word. Now, Brynn isn't in fact biracial. Her father, I believe, is black, so her use of the word could be like argued that it's acceptable for her to say. I personally just don't like any racial slurs, and I really wish everybody would stop using it, because like, what's the point? They're just words that are born out of negativity, you know? So when Brynn says the N-word over the phone, not on camera, Lizzie becomes scared that Brynn will in fact twist this and tell the ladies that it was Lizzie that said the N-word, which is very interesting, as Brynn throughout the show is shown to do exactly that. To say something off camera in a conversation and twist it and then say the other person said it. We have seen we have seen this on camera too, so it's not surprising that this was happening off camera. Lizzie did not want to take the risk of Brynn twisting it and ruining her entire life and ruining her businesses. Lizzie's husband was apparently very upset and blew up over this whole interaction and was talking to producers about it, and that Brynn had said the N-word. Except for he didn't say the N-word. He said the N-word. He did apologize, but then they left the show. And none of this is seen by the audience. None of this is discussed on the show. These ladies never reference Lizzie or any sort of incident. And when the cast was officially like introduced at BravoCon and all the women were there, Lizzie was not there. She obviously filmed a little bit, but I assume it all ended up like on the cutting room floor. Not that like a cutting room floor is a thing anymore, because stuff is digital, it's not film now. So instead of actually cutting film and letting it hang out on the floor, we're just like cutting it and then like deleting it. But I'm sure that footage still exists somewhere, you know. The whole story though is very important for two reasons. One, it's like Bravo really wanted to prove a point after they just completely redid this entire show based on allegations of racism that they couldn't even prove. I think that's also why when we get into the first new cast season, they're also discussing parties that aren't shown. I always wondered why they had a party and it wasn't filmed. This also explains flashback footage we see of Uba arriving to Jenna's apartment and then like chastising her for not informing Uba that there was a film crew there and they were going to be recording. And I always wondered why we never saw anything from that. And it could very well be because Lizzie was there. And all this kind of leads us into season 14, or as I'm going to call it, season 1 or the first season, because it is a rebooted show. This is a new show. And honestly, it kind of feels like an entirely different city. Initially, I rewatched the 2 seasons and I took a ton of notes on all the different storylines throughout the series, but really I just didn't want this to become a really long, boring ass screen like recap of 2 very boring series of a show. So instead, I'm going to be discussing the reasons why I think this show just isn't like picking up like the OG RHONY, or even like how news like franchises like Salt Lake have actually performed very well. Reason number 1, these ladies did not know each other before they started filming this. An insider has said that these women did not really know each other before the filming of the show. That's not to say that their paths have never crossed. Jessel has said that she and Jenna have like rubbed shoulders before because they both do work in the fashion industry, but there was never like a friendship. It was probably more of like an acquaintanceship, like a very loose personal acquaintanceship. Jessel also claimed to have met Sai and Brynn through mutual friends, but throughout watching the show, it's obvious they really don't know each other, because Sai's big thing in season 1 is she feels like she doesn't really know who Jessel is. She doesn't know the real Jessel. So they don't really know each other. Sai also said in a Bravo TV interview that she and Aaron do run in similar social circles, but they don't really know each other. And Uba, she has some loose ties because, I mean, she's a fashion model, but it really doesn't seem like she knew anybody before this. And kind of the same with Brynn. Like, doesn't really seem like anybody really knew Brynn before this. The women do seem somewhat bonded when the first season starts, as it is obvious they've all hung out before and they reference previous events. However, they do still seem pretty awkward around each other. Like, they don't get Jenna at all. Sometimes they're pretty shocked by Sai's bluntness and it like catches them off guard. And everybody's finding Brynn super charming. They're not getting annoyed with her yet. I think it's also a lot harder when it's just a regular straight Housewives, not reboot, when you have a new Housewives coming in, it's harder. You get that first season syndrome where you might be overcompensating to be seen as relevant and to really get your foot in the door. But you also are trying to navigate all these personalities who are all established, and you are somebody that no one has connection with. Now, instead of that being just one housewife, we have an entire cast that's like this, which is why it felt different right away from like the OG RHONY, because you had Ramona, Luann, and Jill all knew each other. Although they weren't great friends, they all knew each other socially. And with Salt Lake, a lot of these women had connections too. Meredith and Lisa knew each other for 10 years, and Heather and Whitney were cousins, even though it was a 23andMe kind of thing, but they knew each other before. And so there were already existing relationships before the show started. And they actually, I know at least in Salt Lake and in original RHONY, they were recommending people to the producers. I don't know if that's something that happened with this reboot, because as far as I know, at least with Sai, she just got a DM on Instagram or something like that. The new RHONY ladies, however, are not established in their relationships in the first season, but by the second season, they do seem a little more like rooted in each other. We did also get additions of 2 new housewives-ish. One might be more of a friend of. The first is a model and art curator, Raquel Chevmois. I don't really know if I said her name right, but I love her so much. Like, I really, really love Raquel. And then Scientologist / Jewish handbag designer, Rebecca Minkoff. They were actually able to blend these 2 women pretty well by establishing relationships with them with already existing women within the reboot. Jenna and Raquel had the connection that they had similar stories of being married to men, and now they're both divorced and they're in lesbian relationships. And Raquel, she is actually engaged to a forensic neuropsychologist named Mel. That's so crazy. And they are obsessed with art and riding motorcycles. And like, honestly, I could probably go on about Raquel and Mel for a while. I think she's great, and I think she was a great addition, and I think she is super empathetic, and she's very caring, and she calls it like it is. Also, I want to know more about Mel's job. I saw her talk about it a little bit on Watch What Happens Live, and it's so fascinating. And Rebecca Minkoff, really, like, she kind of shifted more into a friend of role. She came on as, like, I guess Aaron's friend, and she goes on trips. She does get into stupid drama with, like, Brynn and Sai, but like overall, Rebecca Minkoff felt kind of flat. We saw none of her family, nothing of her actual life, nothing. And I'm assuming that's because of the Scientology. She probably didn't get approved to show a lot of stuff, and she probably didn't want to share some things because she wanted to keep it private. But like, girl, you're on a reality TV show, so I need something from you. We didn't really see much of her working either, except for when Sai and her daughter visited Rebecca's office to see props from the film Wicked and see her brand's crossover, like handbags, like a cross promotion with Wicked. So basically, it was just a promotion for her company and a promotion for Wicked, which is now streaming on Peacock. She does let Sai's daughter like pick out a bag and like take home to keep, which is very kind of her. It does seem like the ladies don't really know her though, and Sai straight up calls her boring on a podcast, and I agree, she is boring. I did buy Rebecca Minkoff's book. It was at a local discount shop called Ollie's, and honestly, it was so boring. I couldn't finish it, and it was so poorly made. I got like 2/3 through the book, and the back cover fell off. It's a hardcover, and it just came unglued. I do think by not casting women who knew each other and had like some sort of established social relationship, that in part did hurt the reboot. This kind of led to them having more of a professional relationship, which then in turn kind of makes this show seem more like just work for these women. Like they're just clocking in and clocking out. Peace, we get to go on a vacation for work. That's great. And I'm still not like entirely convinced that all these women really mesh well together as a group. Reason number 2, too much happens off camera in this series. We start off the reboot with several small dramas that all originate off camera. Cheesegate, which is literally one of the stupidest beefs between housewives I've ever seen, all started in an off-camera party where Brynn and Sai go to Erin's and all she has is a cheese and cracker platter, which then later in a on-camera conversation, Brynn then spins and says to Sai that Erin implied that Aaron said it was weird that there was only cheese there. I'm not making this up. I literally sat through a show where they argued about if somebody liked cheese or if they thought it was weird. Sai is like, this obviously isn't the case because she ate a ton of the cheese and she loves cheese. Then we also see Aaron and Uba meet at a park and they talk about them going to dinner like as a group, and Sai and Bryn ditched them to go somewhere else because the restaurant they were all going to as a group like isn't cool or hip anymore. So Sai and Bryn went to a restaurant that is. But the thing is that we never see any of like this cheese platter party or the dueling dinners. So we're starting off with women that we have zero connection with, and then they're telling us about drama that we also have zero connection with because it all started off camera. And this is something that continues throughout the entirety of both seasons of the reboot. There are constant references to text messages, phone calls, dinners that these women have that are all off camera. There's even Jessel's kid's birthday, which I'm not saying that Jessel has to like put her kid's birthday on the show or anything like that. It's just that later her kid's birthday is brought up in an argument between her and Bryn, and we are shown photos of it at least. But it's that there's so much going on behind the scenes that it feels like we aren't even getting like part of the story. And at the end of season 1, Uba confides in Sai that she has a secret boyfriend, somebody she is not sharing with the show. Then on camera, Sai tells Aaron that Uba has a secret boyfriend, and then they go to dinner with Bryn off camera and tell Bryn. Then this bleeds into the finale party, which is also Bryn's birthday, and Bryn references Uba's boyfriend on camera, and Sai gets mad and leaves. Sai says she's mad because that's Uba's business to share, not Bryn's, but Sai already shared this on camera, and basically she's just mad that she shared info that she shouldn't have and that she got caught. Now, the biggest thing that happened sort of off camera anyway was the swinger pregnancy prank with Rebecca and Aaron against all the ladies. And really, production ultimately played that prank on the audience as well. Rebecca, like the rumor that they started was that Rebecca was pregnant again because she just had a baby, and she wasn't sure who the father was, as Rebecca and her husband are both swingers or have like an open relationship or something. It's just vague enough to work. So Aaron then drops this little bit of T-bomb info on Bryn and Jessel at lunch. We do see this on camera. And these two women, their head is spinning with this information. And then they later have a group outing where they all go play dodgeball, which, by the way, dodgeball, this is Real Housewives of New York. You guys should be like playing tennis or something. That's what I expect. Dodgeball? Anyway, Bryn and Jessel tell all the ladies before Rebecca and Aaron get there. So they're all gossiping about this, and Bryn even says that she knows people that knows Rebecca's husband and has worked with him before. And she called these people and confirmed that they're swingers. Sai, Jenna, Uba, and Raquel are now completely mind blown. And they're also concerned that Rebecca's gonna come and play dodgeball with them. Like, she's pregnant. Is she not worried about being hit with a ball? She does get hit with a ball in the stomach. And then after they all finish playing, they're all sitting around, and Jenna she lets Rebecca know that people are talking about her, but she doesn't tell Rebecca what they're saying. She just does the like, how girls, we can like talk with our eyes. She lets Rebecca know that Aaron is saying some things about her and some stuff is coming out from Aaron. Rebecca gets mad and yells at Aaron, "You told them?" And she storms off, and then Aaron gets up and follows her, and all the women are like, "Oh my God." And then this is where we see it was all a prank. We then get a flashback of these two women at lunch concocting this little plan. So even the audience was getting pranked in this one. This honestly did not go over very well with the audience, myself included. I didn't appreciate that the show overproduced itself so much for a ridiculous prank, but like, I can't hold this one against the ladies because all this stuff was mostly filmed. It was production that was playing the prank. What transpires is a back and forth over several episodes over who knew that this was a prank and to what extent that they knew about the prank. Aaron had dinner with Bryn off camera, and there's some dispute between the two of them of how much Erin divulged to Brynn. We do see some unseen footage of Erin and Raquel on double dates with their partners, and she tells her a little bit about it. So it's a mix of on camera and off camera, or sometimes it's just on camera but not shared by production. But yeah, it really rubbed people the wrong way, and I saw many people online saying that they were just done. Like, they already did not really like this show, and if this is how the audience is going to be treated, they really didn't care. They were tired of the disrespect, because we've already been disrespected sitting through this show. The huge drama that was at the end of season 2 between Brynn and Ubah all hangs on an off-camera FaceTime call that actually happened months before, where Brynn shared with Ubah that she was assaulted. She shared this, well, Brynn says she shared this information in a huge rant trauma dump where she said all these traumatic things that happened to her. Ubah claims that she did not know this, she was not told about any of this, and Brynn eventually admits that it was in that long ranting trauma dump, and maybe Ubah didn't clock it, which, you know, I'm going to go into this honestly in a whole different section, but it is fucked up. But once again, so much of what happens and the drama that ensues happens off camera, and then it's referenced on camera, and sometimes these off camera instances become main story focal points on camera, and then we, the audience, are left out. So we can't even pick one side or the other, because we've never seen the actual instance that they're referring to make our own decisions and be, critically think about a situation. Reason number 3. The women are very guarded on this show, and it comes with the territory of reality TV that you have to share your life. And the women do, to some extent. We do see moments where they are with their children and with their partners, but oftentimes these scenes are very fleeting, and we don't really see them going in deep with their spouses like we have on other franchises, having those serious conversations. I will say Erin had a kind of tough conversation with her husband about his financial betrayal. He sold all of their Bitcoin actually to pay off a joint debt of theirs. But even then, she really didn't go into great detail with him or with the producers in confessionals about what had actually really happened and what her feelings were about it. Both Jenna and Ubah keep their partners off camera, keep them secret, with the ladies meeting them. Yet again, another thing that's happening off camera, but Ubah barely even says her boyfriend's name, and Jenna hardly mentions that she's even engaged, even playing it off like she's not, that it's just a promise ring, and she does this even to the other ladies. So in the press, she'll call it an engagement ring, but with the women, she's even hiding that she's engaged from them. So she doesn't just hide from the cameras, she hides from everyone. And it's not to say that these women are not vulnerable with the cameras, as they do share deep traumas that they have experienced. Brynn's very tragic infancy and her grandmother stepping in and adopting and raising her and her siblings, to Sai's struggles with her mother's alcoholism and bipolar, which, Sai also experienced homelessness, and her mother self-medicated till the end of her life. Jessel shares a lot of her marital struggles, that they have a dead bedroom in season 1, which is kind of oversharing, but I mean, it is reality TV, and her wanting to have another baby. We even sit in on a Zoom's couples counseling, and oh my God, that couples counseling is a mess. Pava, just stop eating the nachos. Both Erin and Jenna have shared on camera that they have had abortions in the past, and I do think that is extremely brave of them to share and come forward with that, and to show people what life is like on the other side of that. Both of these women have amazing lives, amazing families, amazing children and careers, and neither one of them made the wrong choice. We don't even see much of these women working, though people like Brynn claim to be super successful and are talking to Russian billionaires, which, ew, gross. But show us, Brynn, show us talking to your Russian billionaires. Show us going to London to work with your team out there. Show us you being a boss bitch. Hell, she's trying to play Samantha from Sex and the City. Show us you going on a fucking date at least. She tries to portray certain images, but Really, we've only seen her hang out with her ex like twice. Or like, why can't Erin invite some of the ladies to a place that she's designing and then they like sit down and gossip about some stuff? In the spirit of Vicky Gumbelson, why aren't they working? Don't these ladies work? I mean, we got small clips of them working in the beginning, but it's almost like those clips were really just to establish that they did a job and then that was it. We're never going to see that again. So while I do think that the ladies let us in like a little bit, it is only to a certain extent. And even then it feels extremely curated. We see what they feel most confident in showing, when in reality TV, we want to see it all. We want to mention it all. We want to see the real tough spots that these women get into, because that gives us somebody to empathize and root for. Like when Bethany broke up with Jason number 1 right before meeting Alex at that like food fair thing, whatever it was. But we're seeing Bethany and Alex process in real time this huge change. Or like when Alex and Simon welcomed Bethany into their like fixer-upper townhouse in Brooklyn. Back then, most of the women would die if they went to Brooklyn, much less into a house that was a construction zone. But this version of the New York cast, these women are more concerned with their professional image, I think, and that's causing them to hold back a lot. The previous ladies did not have a care in the world on how something on the show could negatively impact them because, well, I think in the beginning it was so early on that like nobody had that notion that that would be a thing, and maybe there was some like naivety on their part. But I mean, they did learn pretty quickly, as we saw Bethany go from living in a little crappy apartment in season 1 to eventually getting a penthouse in Tribeca and selling her skinny girl cocktails for millions. But the new cast, these women are coming in more aware already that their words will impact certain things, which in turn makes them more guarded and makes them second guess what they're thinking. Like, all I can picture is Erin like looking like a deer in headlights, because that is honestly what she looks like 90% of the time. Instead of expressing how she's actually feeling, she just ends up looking panicked. Reason number 4. Where's New York? Yes, it still takes place in New York, obviously, and we get B-roll of New York. We get to see the outside of apartments sometimes. But, like, where is New York in all this? New York was unlike any of the other franchises because the city itself had almost become like an honorary housewife. It had become a character in the show. Where you lived in New York was going to set your whole essence, your whole vibe on the show, your whole status. That's part of the essence of being a New Yorker. Ramona lived on the Upper East Side and she acted like an Upper East Side snob. Or Kelly, who tried to portray this carefree, cool, hip downtown girl. She lived downtown. Or Bethany, like I said, moving from her little tiny apartment to the wealthier area of Tribeca. And everybody feeling bad for Alex because she lived in Brooklyn and it was like social suicide to go there and see her. New York was a character of the show, and now it feels like it's been recast, and New York just doesn't feel like welcoming anymore. The city created a whole tone for this franchise, and now it's been silenced. I also loved seeing the women go to the Hamptons in the summer and enjoying a tennis match or polo, or when they would film around Christmas time and we would get to see New York at Christmas and do them like cute New York things like go ice skating in Rockefeller Center. We don't see these women like embracing and living like the New York life that we previously saw. We only see them interact with their families or really each other. No socialite events that we grew to expect from women living in a socialite environment like New York. And even when they go to Erin's home in the Hamptons, it's not the same as the summers we've seen in the past. We don't get any of the Hampton social scene. They don't go to any parties. There's no, like I said, no polo matches or like horse competition shows, no dueling Labor Day parties, or maybe it was Memorial Day parties. I can't remember. I think it was a Labor Day party. Like when they go to Erin's house in the Hamptons, like that's where they're going to be the whole time, is either at Erin's house or maybe one of the like few restaurants that are in the Hamptons for a couple meals. But we really don't see them going anywhere. We don't even see them outside the restaurants that often. Like, I need a tennis match or something. Come on, Erin, do you not have a tennis court in your Hamptons home? Like, what is this? Reason number 5. It's the ladies themselves. A lot of people say that they are boring, and to be honest, I don't agree, except for Rebecca Minkoff. Like, she is boring. I think it comes down to, like I mentioned earlier, first season syndrome, which is what every housewife goes through. But we have a whole cast. These women are trying to establish themselves in front of the audience and with each other. But when you have a cast of 6 or 7 people who don't know each other and are trying to figure out how to navigate the game, it makes it hard to watch. Each of the ladies is very interesting with their own careers and their own struggles. They share personal stories, like Raquel's process with picking her last name, as that's not her original given last name, but her and her mother traced down through their family line and they chose this name. It's not that the ladies are boring or not vulnerable. It's actually, I think it's because they're not funny, and a few of them overproduce. Originally, New York was a comedy about women in the New York social scene who at some points did not care how they acted. These women were hilarious, whether they meant to be or not. Like Ramona's delusions and her crazy eyes. Her crazy eyes will never cease to make me laugh. And Bethany's quick wit and her snappy one-liners, I mean, those had people falling out of their chairs. These ladies delivered us quotes that will live forever in Housewives history, like "be cool, don't be all uncool," or "turtle time," or "mention it all." Like, these are catchphrases that have worked their way into our lexicon, and they are synonymous with the New York franchise. But these women, they don't give us anything like that. They can be humorous at times, but it's not memorable humor. Like, I know there was a couple times where I like laughed or chuckled, but I couldn't even tell you what those moments were. Like, they're not memorable. I mean, joking about Jenna's pubic hair was funny, but like, imagine the Countess being present, or Ramona. Oh my God, I can picture it. Ramona would like flip out and call them classless and trashy. Luann would agree, but would maybe say something a little more diplomatic. And then Sonia would be trying to like reason with Ramona to be nicer to them because they're younger and they're new and they don't know how to behave in public better. The original women were not afraid to be themselves, no matter the delusion that came along with it. In fact, the delusion helped make for great TV, and I think it helped the women not read too into like audience opinions. They exhibited a lot more freedom on camera, and the new ladies just don't. We don't see them getting bombed and falling into bushes or having cutthroat back and forth like the OGs. Yes, we've seen them get into some pretty ruthless fights, but it's never going to be on the same level as a Dorinda and Bethany. It's not going to have the same, like, I don't know, like je ne sais quoi that a fight from New York OG would have. The fighting is a lot more catty and not as witty. And somehow the OGs would have some pretty intense fights, but they would somehow put that shit aside. Somehow. Not always, but somehow. Now, I think they are all decent housewives, but some do stand out, and some of it's for the wrong reasons. So I want to go over my opinion of the ladies and what I think, and if I think they're like overall great for the show, or if I'm going to miss them if they don't come back. Let's start with Erin. Erin is very much like a cookie cutter housewife to me. She's got the family, the career, she gets into a little bit of drama, and she always tries to work it out in the end with like whoever it's with, which she usually does. She shares small aspects of her life, which includes like both of her parents getting cancer and actually losing her father after this past season aired. I think she's an okay fit, but she kind of just goes with whatever else is going on. She is seen at times trying to initiate conflict, aka self-produce, but she's not very good at it. It always seems like super forced whenever she's trying to bring up something that, you know, the natural conversation hasn't flown into. I mean, overall, she's all right. I'm somewhat fond of her, like, ditzy demeanor. I would maybe keep her. I think she is a good anchor point for this franchise, honestly. Then there's Sai. I find Sai entertaining. She's probably the funniest of the bunch because she doesn't really pull back on her bluntness or her feelings, and that is something that we need in a housewife, especially from New York. I wouldn't put her on the same level as some somebody like Bethany, but she does have her snarky moments, which I do enjoy. And I think she's actually a good fit for the group, and she's always upfront with everybody. Even if she's talking about you behind your back, she will cop to it when confronted. So I do like Sai in this casting. I have also watched some of her YouTube videos about being on Housewives and how she got the call, and she does give some interesting insight into like what it's like to be on the show. Now, Jenna Lyons was kind of like their celebrity casting, as she's been a powerhouse in the world of fashion for a long time, but we really didn't see any of that. In fact, the first season, she was borderline like a friend of. I didn't really get full-time housewife from her. I enjoy seeing Jenna on my screen, but overall, I'm not really sure what she adds to it. Sure, she has an extensive closet and shoe collection, but like, we really didn't get to see that much of it. I want scenes of her like getting ready for an event in there. Like when Heather gets ready in her amazing closet in Orange County. We want to see that stuff. We also never met her girlfriend from season 1, who then we find out at the end they broke up. And then in season 2, she has a new girlfriend, possibly even a fiance. And we still don't even get to meet this person. There's even rumors that they're actually already married. So, like, one of the biggest parts of her life is completely MIA from the show, leaving us to feel like we don't really know who Jenna Lyons is at all. And she is just a very guarded person with information. I feel like Jenna was cast because Andy was, like, fangirling over her. Jenna's a nice woman, but I don't think I would miss her if she left, or I think she would be better suited for just a friend of role, because that's almost like what she's doing pretty much. But the pay might be a little less, and I don't see her doing it for less, because once again, this feels very job-like for all the women. Now, Jessel is somebody that I think makes a very good housewife. She's got a great balance of delusion, relatability, humor, and humbleness. I think these are like the 4 things that make a great housewife. She shares, sometimes even overshares, a lot about her life, and I do love it. Jessel did have a pretty rough start in the first season, for me at least, because she really came across as a complainer, but that quickly faded for the audience and myself, and by the end of the first season, Jessel and her husband Pavitt were fan favorites. Like, everybody loved them. She is a bit of a try-hard, but I mean, all housewives are. Every woman on this cast is a try-hard. But Jessel is a little more earnest about that more than some others. I personally think Jessel is a great casting, and I love watching her on this show. Who cares if she moved to New York just to be on the show? I mean, people move for work all the time. Now, this is a long one, but to me, Brynn is somebody who has studied the game of housewives and is applying the skills that she learned to try and produce drama for the show to be relevant. I also think that Brynn has somehow kind of wiggled her way into being more like in and tight with the crew, as we saw on like the last episode of season 2, which was like the morning after a huge blowout drag out fight with Uba, where Uba and Jessel even left the house they were staying in to go stay in a hotel. The next morning, Brynn is just on the couch chilling with production off camera. There was like security cameras. That's how we saw this, but they hadn't picked cameras up, and they're just like laughing and kikiing like nothing happened. Now, Brynn has experienced like severe, serious trauma in her life, extreme neglect, abuse, SA. All of that is extremely heartbreaking. And what we see on screen is a woman who has learned to cope with all of this by masking it with humor and flirtation, and by literally flirting with anybody that's attracted to women. She flirts with Aaron's husband, which usually Aaron like brushes it off, but she even did this at Aaron and Abe's vow renewal, even saying that when he's ready to divorce Aaron, she'll be waiting in the wings. It's extremely low class to say to somebody's husband, especially at like this kind of an event. And she was so adamant that she didn't say that stuff, and I'm like, girl, like, get them to roll back. You said divorce. She always twists stuff. She also is always queer baiting Jenna, as Jenna obviously finds Brynn attractive, but I think Jenna also like just sees Brynn as like harmless, and she doesn't see her as being seriously attracted to Jenna. But it's really disrespectful to Jenna's partners for her to be constantly flirting with her and undermining their relationship. We also see throughout the series that Brynn has a serious habit of taking somebody's conversation and spinning it to make it sound like something completely different, or that they said something that they didn't mean to say. Or sometimes she will straight up say something in a conversation and then say the other person said it. A lot of times this happens off camera, but we do see an example of it on camera. When she told Jessel that Jenna Lyons called her basic, we then see a flashback of Brynn on FaceTime with Jenna, where Brynn, in fact, calls Jessel basic, and Jenna says, no, I don't agree with that. I'm not giving you that. Jessel is not basic. She constantly does this. Initially, I legitimately believed that Brynn does not realize that she's doing this, and she totally believes what she is saying to these people. But I also think she does this to self-produce, and Brynn has even said she likes to stir the pot. And that, like when she said something snarky to Rebecca Minkoff, but Rebecca didn't take the bait, and Brynn then quietly coached her at the table as to what she should have said to Brynn so they could have had started drama. Producers left that clip in for a reason, and a lot of what Brynn twists happens off camera, so she is given the benefit of the doubt from the beginning. But as we move into season 2, this is solidified. We see her twist the situation with Uba, where Uba initially made a comment that Brynn may have slept with somebody to get on the show, with Brynn later saying this was so hurtful as she went through SA and Uba knew, later to only go back and say maybe Uba didn't know, maybe she didn't clock it when I trauma dumped all over her. Uba is not even sure that Brynn actually told her this in the call, but it's not filmed, so we will never know. And this thing of her doing something, having a conversation off camera, and then spinning it, twisting it, potentially saying the other person said it when she's in fact the person that said it, goes all the way back to even before the show really started, which is what went down with Lizzie in that phone conversation. She was afraid that Brynn was going to twist the conversation and say that she was the one that was saying the N-word, that she was saying the racial slurs. This behavior happened straight out of the gate for Brynn, which leads me to believe this is how Brynn has always been her whole life. It's tricky because at the beginning, I did like Brynn like a lot of people, but as time went by, I did not appreciate her shtick as much as I used to. And when the women held her accountable at the end of season 2 and at the reunion, it was really rough because she caused a lot of damage, including to Jessel's marriage, when she said that Jessel told her Pavitt wasn't the love of her life, it was an ex of hers. Except that's not what Jessel said to her. She said that guy was one of her hottest hookups. Even Jenna held Brynn to the fire for this, and honestly, I did not think Jenna had it in her to do this. Well, I guess I did, but not to Brynn. I think Brynn, out of all of the women, have first season syndrome the most. She's trying the hardest to be relevant, and I have the hardest time admitting she's a decent housewife, but by the standards set by previous ladies, she is. However, I'm not really sure that I would miss her if she didn't come back. And Uba is the last of the reboot original new cast, and I try to like her because I can tell deep down she is a very sweet and caring person, but she's also extremely entitled, rude, and hypercritical of everything. She does have a huge heart and cares for the ladies, but if she feels even the littlest bit slighted, she flies off the handle and goes straight for low blows. She's very flippant with how her words treat others, and even when Aaron brings up that like your words hurt people and that the women censor themselves around her and walk on eggshells, she says good they should. That's not somebody that I would want to be friends with or work with or be around. And if Uba wants her Uba hot sauce to take off, to become successful, she is going to have to learn how to censor herself. I think Uba would benefit greatly from anger management, but I'm sure even suggesting something like that to Uba would be extremely insulting, and she'd probably just fly off the handle at you. Or there's a time where she physically ripped the sunglasses off of Aaron's face because she was still angry that Aaron hid her phone from her after Uba had already lost it and left it in the car, and the driver gave it to Aaron. Uba really showed her dark side early on in the season, and her dark side continues to come out. I think out of all of the women, Uba probably creates the most toxic environment for the show, but Brynn also does because she's really good at riling people up, and she gets under Uba's skin very easily. She knows Uba's triggers, and I think she triggers Uba on purpose to get reactions from her, because that in turn also keeps Bryn relevant too. And I mean, I also think like Uba's anger is something that affects the show, because when there's a dramatic scene that's happening and Uba gets upset, she doesn't let anybody speak. And she just assumes that anytime anybody's going to say something, if she's upset and someone else is going to talk, they're going to say something negative to or about her, which is not always the case. She definitely has some sort of issues going on that all this stems from, but I doubt she's going to share any of that with the world. She doesn't really seem to talk too much about her life in Africa or like her journey on how she got here, which I think is something the audience would love to hear about. And she has her secret boyfriend that lives in Connecticut, so she is living part-time there and then lives part-time in New York. She does even say at the reunion though that she has completely 100% moved in with him and she sold her New York apartment, which I guess that means that she isn't coming back to the show, which I feel bad about saying, but I am fine with her not coming back. I think it'll give everybody on the show a chance to breathe, let the other ladies have it out a little bit, and the vacations will be a little more enjoyable because she won't be complaining about the rooms or the beach or wherever the hell they are. And I kind of already expressed my feelings for the newbie Raquel, but I really like her. She is laid back, she is stylish, she is funny, she is beautiful. She has what seems like a perfect life. Her dogs are so beyond pampered. Like, literally, I want to be reincarnated as one of Raquel and Mel's dogs. Like, these dogs get massages and acupuncture, like, weekly. Sign me up. But like, she's let us into her life quite a bit, and I do want her to come back for the next season, if anything, so we can hopefully see her wedding to Mel. I want to see all the planning, because you know it's gonna be like this sickening artistic avant-garde. I mean, there's no way that Raquel is gonna walk down the aisle in a standard white wedding dress. She is gonna wear something so high fashion. Of course, she could totally like spin it and actually wear the most like simplest white dress, and it would also look fucking stunning on her. She's so beautiful too. I love Raquel and Mel, and their names together. Oh, okay. And if they do not continue this RHONY reboot, can we just maybe like give Raquel and Mel and their family their own show? I'm into that. I'm totally into that. I've also already given my opinion of Rebecca Minkoff. She is boring as a housewife, and she's already announced that she's not coming back. So I'm not actually sure if she was even going to be invited back, but okay, cool. Thank you for establishing that. So yeah, that's why I think RHONY kind of sucks right now. And yes, there is some comparison to the OG RHONY, but we're also just comparing this to Real Housewives as a whole. And I mean, the comparison is really only there because these women are lacking strong characteristics that are really standing out and make us forget what we previously had. They aren't like nearly as captivating or delusional or as funny as the other ladies were. And they seem to have put one of the biggest housewives into a friend of role. New York City herself. It feels like we've lost the essence of New York in this new era of RHONY. I mean, in reality, they could have called this show something completely different and had it not be a housewives show, and I think it would have been received differently. I've watched this show so many times now. I'm honestly so sick of seeing these women, except for Raquel, I love you, and the eye-rolling drama that they gives us. It all feels just super manufactured, and with so much happening off screen, you can't really invest in what's going on in the show. But maybe it could improve. I do think season 2 or 15 was a bit of an improvement from season 1 or season 14, but maybe that's just because my girl Raquel entered the scene, and like I said, I'm in love with her. So yeah, those are some of the reasons that I think RHONY just kind of sucks. I will say the second season of the reboot was a little better from the first, but that could have been just because now the women are a little more established and we know them a little better. But then that whole prank, like honestly, with the whole swinger pregnancy prank, I stopped watching the show for a couple weeks because I was like, man, if this is what the Bravo producers think of me, they think so little of me, I'm not even gonna bother. So maybe season 3 will be better. There have been rumors that Aaron is trying to get somebody from Summer House on the show. Lindsay, I think, the one that had the baby, because she knows them. And that's why I'm like, maybe this could have not been a Housewives show, could have been something else. Anyway, that is it for today's video. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Laters. Bye.